Welcome to Dodgers Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Austin Brubaker. Austin, it is great to be back here with you. It's great to be back on Dodgers Daily. It's great to talk Dodgers baseball, and it's wonderful to be back with all of you. Absolutely awesome Dodgers dogs. So, Austin, how in the hell are you, man? I am super excited to come on tonight.
Casey, it is so good to be able to see your face, to be able to talk some Dodgers baseball today. Casey, it's just wonderful for you to be back. It's been a little bit. It's been about a month and a half or so since the last time we did the show. But together, it is just great when we get to be able to just talk Dodgers baseball. It's therapeutic. Just because we get to talk baseball. That's something I like to do anyways. And I'm excited to be able to do this, especially with the time period that the Dodgers are in right now, just coming out of the All-Star break. We're approaching trade deadline. We're in an evaluation phase of everything that the Los Angeles Dodgers have, because over the next couple of weeks is going to be the last chance to be able to add to this roster to try to fortify it for this October run for a three-peat. But Casey, it's good to have you back.
Oh, yeah.
It's great to see that you are healthy going into this, and I'm excited to be able to continue to do shows with you.
Man, I am so fired up. It's been a whole bunch of different things that I could spend probably about 10 different shows explaining. I will not, though, but it's just, we'll just say it's good to be back. I am back, and so here we go. And I have not been this fired up for Dodgers baseball, for Dodgers dogs, for all of you wonderful Dodgers dogs. To talk to you, Austin, I've not been this fired up in a long time. And to be honest with you, I probably needed that month and a half to recharge some batteries. Anyway, so, okay, man, I'm just telling you, my brain is all sorts of different sideways. Okay. I've learned not to worry about Teo and Max. You know, hey, they have their peaks and valleys. Just kind of sit on it and grit your teeth, although it's not very fun as a fan. I've told you for a long time, I'm really worried about Mookie Betts. I've given you all the reasons why, you know, the lack of the exit velos, the launch angles I think that he tries to chase at times. I'm a little bit worried about the consistency of Freddie Freeman. I thought he was over the hump about a month ago, and then we kind of dive back into this. I'm a little bit worried that, again, we're kind of relying too much on maybe an Andy Pages staying hot or even a Shohei Ohtani at the beginning of the lineup. I'm worried about, hey, can Tommy Edman can continue this type of offensive pace, and do you want to really rely on that? Can rely on Justin Robleski to continue to be the all-star that he has been? So I'm worried about all those things. And then I think, well, hell, they've got a double-digit lead in the division. Shut up. You're stupid to even worry. Just enjoy the process. So I go through all those emotions all the time. Help me make sense of this, Austin.
Yes, there's so much going on, and there's a lot that you can go ahead and dive into in the world of Dodgers baseball. You mentioned a lot of different players. Some of those players lean a little bit more on the inconsistent or very hot and then sometimes very cold type stretches. You mentioned Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez. I think that kind of encapsulates both of their offensive personalities at time. Although I will give credit to Max Muncy, he has been really reliable for the vast majority of the season and has posted close to a 140 WRC plus. He's been really excellent this season. Andy Pages kind of similar in that category where he goes on very hot streaks, then some cold streaks as well. The Dodgers offense, let's just take a little bit of a big picture look. The offense,
hey, before you move on, has Andy Pages has he shrunk his down? As you look at it from an analyst, are his down periods shorter than they used to be, or is he still real long and real on both sides?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would want to dive into that a little bit more, just to really compare that. My inclination is, because he went on a little bit of a cold stretch, especially during maybe late May, June-ish time period, but he's been able to, for the most part, put up really solid numbers overall, and it seems as if the stretches have become a little bit more limited. I don't have that confirmed, but it seems like they're a little bit more limited. Still a little bit of that give and take, a little bit more aggressive inside and outside the zone for Andy Pages, which is going to lead to some of those inconsistencies, but I think still an overall good player, just as his Dodgers offense is overall really well. This is some of the back and forth that we had, because going into the All-Star break, the Dodgers got swept and pretty much embarrassed by the Arizona Diamondbacks. And here's the thing is, I do not think the Los Angeles Dodgers cared. And that might sound crazy, but the Los Angeles Dodgers, with the lead that they have going into the division and understanding where they need to be, they're still all set up to where they can go ahead and clinch potentially that number one spot. Now, getting too swept too many times is not going to help that, but they're still well in position to be able to do that. They're more than well in position to be able to win the division, which is going to be something that the Los Angeles Dodgers are almost certainly going to do. 11 and a half games up in that division. They're going to clinch a playoff spot, which means that all of their focus is on October. All of their focus is towards that. And part of this is, okay, team probably was looking for some sort of rest going into that, looking forward a little bit too far. You still look at this offense, even after they got swept by the Arizona Diamondbacks, it's a 115 WRC plus on the season, best offense in the game of baseball, best expected stats by in the game of baseball. Overall, things seem to be going really well for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I think the thing that is compelling about this is there's even more that's on the bone for the Dodgers to be able to fit in well. You mentioned Mookie Betts. There have been times where we've seen Mookie Betts come back. He had a couple games in a row where he hit home runs consecutively. Yeah. He's had some good moments. There's been bouts of inconsistency as part of his game, which with some of the more fly ball heavy type of approach that Mookie Betts has, I think is going to have a little bit of those inconsistencies, especially with not elite exit velos or as elite as we've seen in the past for Mookie Betts, which you could make the argument that, okay, now we're starting to add a little bit too many pieces that perhaps are a little bit more inconsistent, and especially with the absence of Will Smith, maybe he's somebody that is a little bit more reliable that they're missing out on this.
Well, he creates the consistency. He kind of is that bridge between the explosion and then the bottom of the lineup that you shouldn't have to expect the bottom of your lineup to be great every night to win. He's kind of that bridge between the two.
It's him, and it should have been going into the season Kyle Tucker.
Yep.
Kyle Tucker was supposed to be that reliable. Yep. You know exactly what you're going to expect, and we just haven't seen the power from Kyle Tucker at all. We've seen enough bloop singles here and there to where he can stay around a league average type of hitter, is good enough in the zone. But we've seen the chase, we've seen the whiff increase this season, and we've seen the power take a massive decrease. I think getting Will Smith and Kyle Tucker a little bit more right is going to create a lot more consistency in this lineup game to game, to the point where, man, you don't really worry a whole lot about this offense at the most part. And that's the tricky thing, is this overall Dodgers team is really well rounded to where you're nitpicking certain aspects, or you're going to find different things that, sure, there are issues, but as far as in relative comparison to all of the other teams, these are minor issues that other teams would have to deal with.
Yeah, but we're the Dodgers, and we spent that much more money than everybody else.
Absolutely.
And coming into this season, my stance on it was, this is the most airtight Dodgers roster ever that I've ever seen, because there's so much volatility to the playoffs. But the way that you remove that volatility is pitching. And I really felt like, of course, you don't have Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow. That situation's been a massive disappointment to me. But then at the same time, you've had Justin Robleski, who I've been telling you is an absolute dog. The bigger the moment you give him, the better he's going to be. So there's some give and take for the Snell and then obviously you lose Edwin Diaz, and then Tanner Scott has not been good at all lately as well. So I don't think the pitching right now, this is bringing us into the trade deadline aspect of things. I think all the pieces were put into place. It looked as airtight as you could possibly get at this point. As we're approaching the trade deadline, it's not near. I'm going to say it's not as. I'm going to go further than just saying it's not as airtight. I'm going to go way further than that and say it's not nearly as airtight as I thought it was going to be coming into this season. That's where my biggest concerns are at. And we've seen this Dodgers team, it's not automatic they will hit great in the playoffs. And so if your pitching is not more airtight than it is right now, it's still going to be a crapshoot going into the playoffs, no matter how good the regular season's gone. So I do think the Dodgers, I think an ace-level pitcher is a teeter-totter between a want and a need right now. Am I a little bit too overboard there?
Okay, so this comes down to a very clear question, one of which we don't have all the information that we have, but certainly there is some question marks with the Dodgers starting pitching staff. Okay, so let's dive into this. Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow, and you can have various degrees. to what degree of confidence do you have that they are going to be available going into October? Because that is going to help define the Los Angeles Dodgers and their season. With the Dodgers last year, I think we were in basically the exact same situation last year. Fortunately enough, the Dodgers were able to have that, because ideally with the Dodgers, you would have Yamamoto, Ohtani, Snell, and Glasnow. There's your 4 starters. That is what, going into the season, the expectation was going to be at the starting rotation. Now it comes down to a question mark. Snell, Glasnow, are they going to be healthy? That is a little bit more of a question mark that we have right here. And this comes down to some of the strategy or some of the things that the organization has. I think there's 2 different theories. One that's a little bit more optimistic in nature, and I think in part due to some of the natures and tendencies that the Dodgers have. The second part comes down to a little bit more of a question mark, and one that is a little bit more pessimistic in nature. Let me give the optimistic viewpoint with this. Optimistic viewpoint, the Dodgers know that they're going to win the division, or at least are fairly certain that they're going to win the division. They know if they win the division, they're in October. Everything is about October. When it comes to Snell and Glasnow, their main concern, in fact, their really only concern right now, is making sure that they're healthy going into October. And so they are going to slow play as much as they possibly can, Snell and Glasnow, to make sure that they are healthy going into October. Is that at least a somewhat realistic or plausible theory that the Los Angeles Dodgers could have? I would say probably yes. I think they have enough pitching, or at least they have enough different arms that they could use to be able to go ahead and do that. The more pessimistic side of things is, yes, that could be true, but will they actually come back and be healthy? And how much insurance do you want to be able to have for that? You throw in some of the potential issues with Shohei Ohtani and his knee, and then that compounds things pretty heavily to where, yeah, you have Yamamoto, and then it comes down to a little bit more of a question mark. So it really comes down to an organizational type of viewpoint, which this gets into some of the tricky part, because you and I don't have the inside information. We don't know how confident they are that Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow are.
I'm just telling you, I don't think they know. I don't think there's any way to know.
I would say they are a lot better informed than we are, because they're actually tracking the progress of Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow.
But every time Glasnow does something, there's a setback. Every time they think something's going to happen, it gets set back. Now, I think Blake Snell, probably you could predict him a little bit more, but with Tyler Glasnow, I don't want to trust anything on that front in terms of health, because I don't know why you would, right?
Yes, and I think that is totally fair to be able to have that, which means that I think when the organization is dealing with, I think they're dealing in terms of percentages. So for Blake Snell, okay, what is our percentages confidence that he's actually going to be healthy going into October? Put that on a scale of 0 to 100. Same thing with Tyler Glasnow. Okay, what is our percentage with Tyler Glasnow? I think you and I are in agreement. A little bit more confident with Blake Snell than Tyler Glasnow, just because of the setbacks that we have going into that. Okay, if we're more confident with Blake Snell, let's say that Blake Snell is let's say the Dodgers are pretty high. Let's say that they're 70% chance of Blake Snell going into October. And let's say with Tyler Glasnow, they're like more 50-50-ish going into October. But they still have a lot of confidence in Ohtani and Yamamoto being able to make that start. Okay, you can probably get at least 3 of those arms to be able to go into October. Then it comes down to a question of, okay, how confident are you with the rest of the starting pitchers on your staff? Would you give Justin Robleski a start in a postseason type of environment? And if that's the case, then you are relying on one of Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow to get healthy. Right. And then you have a Yamamoto, Ohtani, Snell, or Glasnow, and then a Robleski being in a postseason type of rotation. And then it becomes okay, maybe we don't need to go out and trade specifically for an ace level starting pitcher. I think that's part of the math that the Dodgers are doing right now on the starting pitching role.
But I think when I say hell yes on Robleski, I don't think he's the guy you go, okay, on a 3-game series, if something goes weird and we make the wild card and we have to play it through, or if any 7-game or 5-game series comes down to the best 2 out of 3 at the end of it, okay, do you want Robleski to be one of those 3? It wouldn't bother me, because I trust Robo that much. But that's not how you set this roster up. You didn't set this roster up for Robleski to have to win one of the best 2 out of 3 games in a do or die situation in the playoffs. That's just not how this roster was set up. It was set up to be way more airtight than that. And then whenever you kind of add the elements that really kind of make my head spin to where I'm going to say one thing on one side of my mouth, and I'm probably 5 minutes later going to say something on the other side of my mouth, and I'm going to completely contradict myself and sound like a complete dumbass in this situation. Is I really feel like the Dodgers need an ace-level starter, okay, because I just don't trust Glass now. There's no telling with Blake Snell that I think probably, but I don't want to do the probably thing, right? I mean, I think probably Justin Robleski's going to continue to be, but I don't want to do the probably thing, okay? Mm-hmm. So I say that I think it's a teeter-totter between a want and a need for an ace-level pitcher. But then you look at Tarek Skubal, and he's a rental, okay, which means you're not going to have him after this year. And we saw with Dustin May last year, we won a World Series without Dustin May, and then also got, James Tibbs a third and Zach Earhart back for him. That was a win. So, I mean, if you can win the World Series with a roster that already is 11 and a half games up in the division without Tarek Skubal, without giving up the biggest prospects in your system because he's a rental, then that's obviously the best case scenario, especially as you mentioned with Blake Snell and Tyler Glass not coming back. So that's the one part of it. It's the rental aspect. And then also the prospects that you would be giving up for Tarek Skubal have performed so well this year that even the average Dodgers fan is looking at a DePaula or a Sirota or somebody like that and going, oh, hell no. We ain't touching those guys. We ain't touching those guys, especially for a rental. I mean, even the average common Dodgers fan who just kind of follows the minor leagues, I think feels that way about a rental at this point. So there's just so many different layers to this trade deadline. I have no idea what's going to happen, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think here's another aspect with this, because you mentioned not just the starting rotation, which I think certainly when you're talking about the long-term effects of the Dodgers and things that could bring them down, health to the starting rotation, I think is the biggest threat. I think you look at this offense, you can look at different positions, second base as being one that's been a little bit more of a question mark. I think Tommy Edman can feel enough of a role and provide enough of stability to where, man, even if it's just league averages offense, that's exactly what the Dodgers could use at this point.
So where are you at on Freeland right now?
Freeland, he's been struggling over the past couple of weeks. He's and let's be honest, his role is going to be replaced as soon as Kike Hernandez is healthy. Yeah, I'm not even concerned about that. If you're talking about offensive pieces that the Dodgers could bring in, there is not a single spot on this roster that they could fill in. The only other potential spot, which we'll get into this a little bit because I had a little bit of a take that I want to be able to talk a little bit about this. The only potential spot that there could be on this roster is Alex Call. He's the only other possible spot. You want to say
you're going to have to convince me of that one. That one baffles me. I'm interested to hear your take on that because I'm like, what?
Yes, I will get into that take in a little bit. We'll talk a little bit of Alex Call in a little bit. He's the only one that's potential as far as an addition. Now, you could say backup catcher. What my assumption is that at some point Will Smith is going to come back, and then Dalton Rushing is going to be the backup catcher. So if you want to add in a temporary stopgap option until Will Smith comes back, sure, I don't really have any huge argument against that, but that also I don't think you see it as a massive need for the Los Angeles Dodgers unless there's massive concern about Will Smith and you need to really improve that. When we come to the pitching, and I think this is really important just because what's so fascinating about this is if some of these guys come back healthy, which again, that is a big question mark, if the Los Angeles Dodgers are set up with a decent amount of depth this year to the point where you could very well make an argument that the Los Angeles Dodgers do not really need a whole lot of pitching at the trade deadline because their roster is stacked and put to a point where, man, there's going to be some difficult decisions about who to include on this playoff roster. This was an exercise I believe I did about a week or so ago. Casey, I'll run through this option. We'll go through if a lot of these guys are healthy, the postseason bullpen or postseason pitching staff, as well as who is not included in this potential postseason pitching staff, to be able to talk through some of the depth that the Dodgers have. What I'm going to do is guys that I have included. Remember, there's about 12 pitchers that the Dodgers would take on a postseason roster. Typically, they take more position players than pitchers. I think they went 15 and 11 for the first two rounds, then 14 and 12 for the last two rounds. So here is a potential 12-man postseason pitching staff. I want to give your yes or no whether or not you're confident with these guys actually getting postseason innings for the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'll just assume that starting 4 is healthy in the pitching staff. Yamamoto, Ohtani, Snell, Glass. Now, are you confident if they are healthy with them pitching in October?
I have a hard time. I mean, you're giving me a hypothetical of healthy,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And then you have to. So
yes. We'll dive into that in just a second.
Okay, then if they're healthy, yes, that's how you had it set up. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. If they're healthy, yes. Justin Robleski, confident with him pitching postseason innings?
As a number 5, absolutely. I mean, he's gonna that goes in the depth category, but I trust him in every scenario. Just put it to you that way.
Whether it's out of the bullpen, whether it's
in every scenario, I trust Robo.
Every single one. Justin Robleski has proven he's reliable. This one might be a little bit tricky for you. Tanner Scott, just run through some of his season numbers just to show you how good he's been on the season. Expected ERA 2.63. 31.3 strikeout minus walk percentage. He's good against righties. He's good against lefties. Tanner Scott, do you feel comfortable with him postseason innings?
Absolutely. Alex
Vesia.
100%.
100%. Edwin Diaz, currently rehabbing for Ontario, expected to come back soon. Are you confident Edwin Diaz in the postseason?
Are you saying is this all pretensed by he's healthy?
Yes, all this is pretensed by health.
That's a slam dunk.
Yeah, slam dunk. Jack Dreyer, confident with him in a postseason type setting?
Anybody who's not confident in Jack Dreyer, I just would have to hear why. Yes. Other than the fact that his name's Jack Dreyer and he was an undrafted free agent and nobody can figure out how a guy that wasn't a prospect and wasn't even drafted can be this good. Other than that argument, which he's overcome, I would just have to hear the argument of why you don't trust this guy. So, yes.
Totally fair. Edgardo Enriquez, let me make the case really quick. Edgardo Enriquez has been one of the better right-handed relievers out of the entire bullpen. 2.41 expected ERA. Is expected weighted on base average against right-handed hitters is one of the very best in all of baseball. He's been one of the better pitchers against righties, a 2.08 expected weighted on base average. Edgardo Enriquez, confident with him in October?
So, I like to give context. I'm a coach and a teacher, so yes and no type situations are hard for me. Yes. So if you remember about 2 months ago, you and I had a pretty deep conversation on him, and we had said, hey, in the past, we were like, well, he needed to do this, he needed to do that. We didn't think he was right. And we both point blank said, Edgardo, this is your time. You've had all the time to ramp up to become. This is your time. Go take it. So we felt like this was the year for Edgardo Enriquez to go from that. Well, he's talented. Well, he could do this. Well, he has some. To no, actually, we're putting this in the results category. So neither one of you or I are surprised whatsoever that this has been a breakout season for Edgardo Enriquez. It's because the Dodgers have taken him incrementally. He's made the improvements increment. And whenever you make him over a short or over a long period of time like that, it's incremental. Those tend to be the lasting successes. That success tends to last. And because of that process, I totally trust Edgardo Enriquez, plus the World Series experience he got last year, 100%.
I would say it would be almost impossible to find a reliever on the market outside from Mason Miller, which would cost an arm and a leg to be able to get him, Josue de Paula, plus for a reliever, which the Dodgers are not going to be willing to do. They've shown that. In order to get somebody that comes even close to what Edgardo Enriquez has been able to perform this year, I fully am trusting what Edgardo Enriquez is pulling. Doesn't mean things won't change going forward, but based on what he's doing right now, he's pitching with a ton of confidence. Hold on a second.
You're good. You ever had this stuff?
I've not had that stuff.
Dr. Pepper, zero sugar, creamy coconut.
Ooh.
So I used to be Diet Coke. Now I've eliminated just about everything bad in my life, like dipping snuff and alcohol and all that. But I will not eliminate my Diet Coke. Will not do it. I tried it and I was like, what the hell am I doing? I'm about dead anyways. Why am I going to eliminate Diet Coke? So I'm not eliminating what we call pop here in Oklahoma. Well, I actually transitioned to Pepsi Zero because Pepsi Zero is pretty badass. And then one day I saw this blue thing, and I was like, what the hell is that? And it was creamy coconut Diet Dr. Pepper, okay? Or Dr. Pepper Zero. Holy crap, this stuff's good. If you haven't had one of these, now you got to get them right now because they don't sell them year-round. It's only a summer thing. So more important than anybody the Dodgers need to pick up in the trade deadline, if you haven't had one of these little babies right here, go to your local convenience store and go grab one of these and throw it down your throat, because these things are awesome. Okay, sorry, I had to put that out there.
You know what's hilarious about that? We're not even sponsored by Dr. Pepper.
No, we're not.
That was literally a sponsorship ad, and we don't get any money for that. That's hilarious. Continuing on with this conversation.
It's like drinking suntan lotion. It's fantastic.
Okay, that's 10 pitchers already that the Dodgers could turn to that we're already pretty confident in. Will Klein, 3.19 expected ERA. He's been really reliable, pretty consistent throughout the season. Can get both the righties and lefties out. Are you comfortable with Will Klein getting postseason innings? I'm
comfortable with the role he'll be put in. He won't be like the first. He could possibly be put into high leverage situation like he was last year, but he'll be like the fourth or fifth choice for the high leverage situation. So by the time that the Dodgers get to him and need him in a higher leverage situation, I don't think there's anybody else they could go get that would be better for that emergency type situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's going to be like coming in with a 4-run lead, 5-run lead, or being behind 4 or 5. So I think for the role he's going to be given, absolutely perfect guy to have in Will Klein.
Perfect. And then this is number 12 that could be on this roster. I'll give you a choice. Brock Stewart, who is more of a right-handed hitter specialist, is specifically to be able to go get right-handed hitters out. 2.72 expected ERA during his limited time, or an Evan Phillips coming back. I know ERA hasn't been great. Some of the underlying numbers are a lot better, getting a decent amount of strikeouts during his appearances. I'll give you one of the two. Would you be confident that one of the two could go out and fill in postseason innings for the Dodgers?
Okay, my context teacher coach brain here. So you're going to probably have a different look at this. This is why this is a great team. You're the analyst. I'm the coach, right? So the coach in me says, I do not trust Brock Stewart because I haven't seen it. Okay. I've seen him get nervous and not pitch well. I have not seen him just go out there and do, what Will Klein did last year, for instance. I haven't seen it. I have seen Evan Phillips do that. I trust Evan Phillips with my last dollar in terms of, hey, he may get beat, but it's not going to be because he choked or because he was nervous or he just gave the game away. So you're asking a coach, which one are you going to try? And this, again, this isn't, okay, who's going to be better at the end of July or in early August? This is who do you want in Game 7? That's how we're evaluating this. Games that, the World Series on the line. My coach brain is going to take Evan Phillips every day and twice on Sundays just because I trust him because I've seen it.
Yep, and that's totally fair. So let's go through this again. The reason why we're going through this exercise is because I want us to be able to evaluate this roster, because any external addition is, if these guys are healthy, and that's a big if, going to push one of these guys out that you might be already anticipating being part of the postseason pitching staff. So this is what we have right now. If they are healthy: Yamamoto, Ohtani, Snell, Glasnow. Out of the bullpen, Robleski, Scott, Vesia, Diaz, Dreyer, Henriquez, Klein, and Evan Phillips.
Hold on. Where do you put Sasaki?
Yes, I was about to say that. You know who this does not include in a postseason pitching staff? Does not include Emmett Sheehan, who I think in a shorter role where his velo is a little bit more up, because we've seen him have some velo issues over the last couple of once he gets to the 4th or 5th inning. Does not include Emmett Sheehan. He's not on the postseason pitching staff. Does not include Roki Sasaki, who last year was one of the better pitchers out of the bullpen, which it comes down to a question. Okay, who do you replace Roki Sasaki with? We might get into that conversation in just a minute. Does not include an Eric Lauer, who's been really reliable for the Dodgers. One reason why you could make an argument for Eric Lauer is his expected weighted on base average against left-handed pitching is 223. He's been one of the best pitchers on the Los Angeles Dodgers against left-handed pitching specifically. Does not include a Brock Stewart. Does not include a Kyle Hurt. Does not include a River Ryan if he comes back healthy. Does not include a Blake Trinan if he comes back healthy. Those are other options that the Dodgers could potentially turn to if there is some type of injury, which means that, man, you're not including Roki Sasaki in this postseason staff. You're not including a Brock Stewart in this postseason staff. You're not including a Kyle Hurt, which I know it has been a struggle recently, but showed times of dominance for the Los Angeles Dodgers in the bullpen. there are a lot of different options that might not be included in a postseason type of series because the Los Angeles Dodgers have a really good amount of depth, which means that at this trade deadline, I don't know if it's necessarily about the depth unless there's concern to the starting pitching. It's only if they can receive the upside that would surpass any of the 12 that we had mentioned that could go ahead and replace those guys in a postseason style.
Long story short, okay, last year you were on the Dodgers need to go get an ace level pitcher, and then they also need to fill the back end with a couple of innings eaters, right? You were on that train, if I remember correctly.
I will say that I was much more concerned, especially bullpen wise, about the depth of the Dodgers than I was this year.
Yeah, so you liked the Brock Stewart because it was kind of on the back end of it, but you didn't think they went aggressively enough at the front end, which I still don't think they did. It worked out. They won it, but I think they got incredibly lucky. Lucky's probably the wrong word. Incredibly fortunate. I think if you put the Dodgers scenario the last 2 years on a scale of 1 to 10 and do that 10 different times, I think they win that maybe once or twice again, you know?
Yeah, they were very reliant, and they were very fortunate that some of their starters were able to come back. Plus, remember, Roki Sasaki was not the same pitcher.
And Robo and Will Klein and Edgardo. I mean, there's no way anybody could have said, hey, we're going to rely on those 4 guys, and we're damn sure happy about that, right?
Exactly. That would be digging into some of their C or D type of options that they would be turning to.
So their C or D type options had to give A performances, not only results-wise, but in the A-plus parts of the game to where they had to give A-plus results. That wasn't the script, okay? So when I say the Dodgers were fortunate or lucky, that's really just not even kind of an opinion. That's math. I mean, you're talking about C or D level options having to pitch in A-plus parts of games, and then if they don't give A-plus performances, you lose. So this is where I go back to the trade deadline being all about it's either an ace level starter or it's nothing at all, because you already have more depth than you really know what to do with, okay? And so the question then becomes, do you trust Tyler Glass now to be healthy? Do you trust Blake Snell to be healthy? Do you trust Justin Robleski to be the guy that you would want to pitch in a best 2 out of 3 series as one of your starters? That's what it comes down to, and I'm just telling you right now, I've been in these war rooms. Okay, I've been in these conversations to where everybody gives their opinion. Sometimes, to be honest with you, Austin, you've seen our shows here before.
Yep.
Whenever you're passionate about something, sometimes it gets heated. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you don't like each other. It just means that you're passionate about your opinion and the other person's passionate about theirs. And damn it, you're not going to back down, right? Because this is just how I've been. That's what makes the best leaders are the ones that say, you know what, this is what I believe, right, wrong, or indifferent. This is what we're doing. Now, I'm not so arrogant to where I won't make adjustments if I need to. So kind of what I'm telling you is, I will promise you, the Dodgers are having these discussions every day. They have the analysts that breaking down the statistical aspects of things like you. They have the coach type brains like the Dave Robertses of the world giving well, this is what I trust. Throw out all the books and throw out all the, I'm throwing all the trash. This is the moment where I got to trust my eyes and my gut. This is who I want. That would be the Dave Roberts type of guy. They are having these conversations every day, and I promise you, probably their opinions change every day, their outlook changes every day, and I will guarantee you they are nowhere as close to having any idea what decision they want to make at this point right now.
Yes, I think a lot of this is going to come down to really close to the August 3rd deadline. Trade deadline is August 3rd this year.
I noticed that. That's weird. What is that? What's up with that?
My guess is perhaps leading into a weekend, they want to give it some extra time. I actually don't know exactly the whole rationale behind it, but there's a little bit of extra time that takes place, which gives other teams the chance to be able to go ahead and decide, okay, are we going to be buyers? Are we going to be sellers? What is going to be the time frame for that? I think with this whole conversation, and this could be a wrong expectation, but I think with the depth that the Dodgers have, I don't think it's going to be one of those trade deadlines where it's, okay, we need to require a pitcher or two just in case there's a couple of injuries. I think unless things happen over the course of the next 3 weeks where, okay, there's an injury here or there to a bullpen arm that wasn't expected, that's taking somebody from the top tier out of that, and now you're relying upon Hiroki Sasaki to be in a bullpen type role when he's been a starter this whole year. Maybe you're relying upon a couple of guys that you have a little bit of question marks about going into October. unless that happens, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot about depth. I think it's all going to be about, okay, starting pitching. Where are these guys at? What is their health? Is it going to be a high likely need that we're going to have to make some sort of trade for somebody? And if that is the case, I think the only way that the Dodgers could go, unless there is concern about quantity of arms, meaning both Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow likely being out for October, which I don't think is going to be the case. I think the Dodgers are going to at least get one of them. Then it comes down to a case of quantity. And then that all leads back to, and this is the guy that we'll keep bringing up over and over again, keeps going back to Tarek Skubal. The interesting thing about this is, will the Tigers even trade Tarek Skubal? I know they're 44 and 52 at this point. You look at their schedule over the course of the next couple of weeks. They have some games against some weaker competition. I believe they have the Angels next. Then they got a little bit of a tougher series against the Chicago Cubs. But they have teams like the Royals and the A's leading up to the trade deadline. I believe that's what their schedule looks like. And they're not as far back from the American League wildcard because of the weakness of the American League as you might think, which means that in their mind, not saying that this is the correct decision, but in their mind, they might make the decision and they will wait until the very last moment, because Scott Harris will wait until the very last moment to make any sort of deal or trade. They might wait and say, hey, if we're within a game and a half of the wild card, why on earth would we trade Tarek Skubal when we have a chance to be able to go into the postseason? And with the weakness of the American League, we would have a shot to be able to go on some type of run with one of the best pitchers in the game of baseball, which could throw that outside of the scenario for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And then it becomes the different options that you're looking at are a lot more shaky, a lot more unreliable, and come to a real conversation of, okay, do I actually even trust this guy over a Justin Robleski?
No, exactly. No, it's Tarek Skubal or bust for me.
I'm getting pretty close to that point, unless there is serious concern about some multiple starting pitchers long term, to where the Dodgers are concerned that both Snell and Glasnow are going to be out. And then you're having conversation of, okay, do we need an extra arm? One, to make sure that we get through the season. I think they'll have enough to be able to do that, but just in case, be able to do that, while also having just another option that they could use for the postseason. Perhaps that could be the case, but I think the most likely scenario is you get the best pitcher that is going to be available, which is going to be a Tarek Skubal, even though it's a rental, even though it's going to cost you more than what you would like, or you look to other systems to improve the team long-term, which could be the other play that the Los Angeles Dodgers could do, not will do, but could do at this trade deadline, especially with the number of draft picks that they were not able to sign this year because of the signings of Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz.
So you know my position on this. I love my babies. Okay, I love my babies. Okay, but I'm different than a prospect hoarder. I'm the exact opposite. I love my babies at the prospect level so much that I would much rather see them get traded and get an opportunity like Miguel Vargas, okay, like Michael Busch. I'm so much more happy or happier, whatever word that is, for Miguel Vargas that he's an all-star with the White Sox versus, Dodgers fans were like, oh, he's just so sad to be with Chicago. Well, I tried to tell you from the day one, hell no, he's not. He is fired up to be in Chicago, okay, because he's getting an opportunity, okay? Yep. So I am definitely one. I am the opposite of a hoarder. Trade these guys off, give them the opportunity to become the major leaguer that they deserve to get, okay? So that's number one for me. And then two, I have so much confidence in the Dodgers front office that they will So I'm gonna ask this question again. I asked this of, I can't remember, I think it was Coach Holt. So dating back to the time when the Dodgers first started playing baseball, okay? Name me a time when the Dodgers farm system wasn't good. Can you think of one?
I haven't been as closely following the Dodgers farm system in a while, so I don't have any on the top of my head. I'm sure there probably has been times where it's been weaker, but the Dodgers generally do a really good job with their farm system. So my point is, this front office is so good, they could give away 4 or 5 of their top prospects, and within a year or two, they're going to be right back to being one of the best. No matter where they draft, no matter any of this, they're going to be right. They're going to make a trade for a Mike Sirota, a Zaire Hope, a Jackson Ferris. They're going to get these guys in their system, a Zach Earhart, a James Tibbs the third. They're going to make trades for these guys, and they're going to reload. So prospects, to me, the farm system, the idea that the Dodgers are going to drain
drain their farm system and empty it. I don't buy that. The Dodgers have had a great farm system for 140,000 years. That's never going to stop, certainly with the office they have right now. So I am way more, I say all that to say, I'm making a short story long like I like to do. I'm saying all that to say I am way more aggressive in giving up prospects, I'm sure, than the average Dodgers fan. Those Dodgers fans are probably like, hell yeah, we're winning World Series and we're keeping all our prospects. Awesome. I don't think that's awesome because I don't like the hoarding aspect of it, because I think it keeps a guy like Ryan Ward from having or Drew Avens in the past, somebody like that, the opportunities they deserve. So that's number one. Yep. Number two is, I've always said, when you have a chance to go get a guy that is such a game changer like Tarik Skubal, these guys, this isn't just a guy. This is the guy. This is the game changer. This is one of maybe the biggest game changer in all of the game of baseball. And when you have a chance to go get that guy, like when the Dodgers had the chance to go get Shohei Ohtani or some of these other guys they went and got, you just don't pass up on that guy no matter what prospect you give up. And then the last aspect of this is the odds of, as good as Josue de Paula, Mike Sirota, all these guys are, as good as they are, the odds of any of these prospects ever making the impact that a Tarik Skubal would make, even in a rental situation, believe it or not, are so minutely low that the odds, I would say, actually are in a better favor of going and getting Tarik Skubal and giving up the prospects, because the odds of them ever making the impact at the major league level that Skubal would make for you are so remotely low.
Okay, so there's a couple of different conversations that we can go ahead and have with this. One, I am in agreement that somebody like a Tarik Skubal actually would make a massive difference for the Los Angeles Dodgers, or could potentially make a massive difference for the Los Angeles Dodgers this year, to the point where it's be worth it. You go back to the trade deadline conversations that we had last year. A lot of the conversations came down to impact high leverage relief closer type of roles. Guys like a Yohan Duran, guys like a Mason Miller, guys like an Emmanuel Clase at the time before he got suspended. Should the Los Angeles Dodgers make that? I wasn't as on board with that, because my theory with this is, especially if you're going to give up some of these top or names, I would rather trade those guys for guys that have a little bit more high impact on the game, and primarily guys like starting pitchers. Starting pitchers play a massive role in October. Or
who demands the most amount of money?
Oh, it is starting pitchers for the most part.
Well, that tells you who makes the most impact, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Or everyday position players. Those are the type of groups that I'd be much more willing to be able to trade a lot of these high-end prospects for, that other teams are coveting in order to be able to get them. When it comes down to the conversation of prospects, and we're talking about prospects, trades kind of in general, I think there's a couple of different things that we have to take into account with this. One, the Dodgers are really good at scouting. They're really good at developing, so they have the ability to be able to replenish their farm system in a lot of different ways. Some of the ways that they have done that in the past, they're a little bit more limited this year than they have been in the past, meaning part of the ways that they've been so good is they've been done a really good job at drafting players. A lot of their slots, at least 4 of their draft picks, upper end type of draft picks that have allowed them to be able to get some of the great prospects within their system and allowed them to turn into really good starting pitchers or position players in the system. They just don't have that this year, which means that they might have to be creative in order to be able to add additional players into this farm system. And when we're talking about position player or farm system players to be able to trade, I am with you on this. But I'm specifically for some of those guys that are getting closer to major league ready, that the organization doesn't have within the next couple of years a really good role for them to be able to fill. Meaning, I'm less concerned about, oh man, we have so many guys in the system. Let's trade the guy from Ontario to another team because we have so many guys in the system. I'm less concerned about that because there's a lot in time for him to be able to develop in this system, to where, man, it's a great thing that we have somebody who's not Rule 5 draft eligible for a couple of years and who's going to be younger in this farm system, has several years of developing, to the point where, man, if injuries or things popped up, maybe there is going to be some sort of hole for this player that's in Ontario or Great Lakes, as opposed to some of the players, let's say at the AAA level. I don't necessarily want to see him traded, but somebody like James Tibbs III. Realistically, what is his role going to be over the course of the next couple of seasons? it's a real big question mark, because maybe there's one spot that is open in the outfield, but if the organization is signaling, hey, we really like Josue DePaul, we really like Mike Sirota better for that role, what's going to tell you that James Tibbs III is going to jump over in that particular role? You mentioned Ryan Ward. Ryan Ward absolutely should be somebody that the Dodgers are specifically looking for some type of trade, because I don't want to see him in Oklahoma City and continue to set records in that ballpark and not get any sort of opportunity when he's deserved an opportunity long term. Some of those more upper end type of guys, if there's no need on the major league roster for them, I think one of the ways that the organization, this is a little bit more challenging to do, yet the organization has done it with trades like the Michael Busch, who wasn't at the minor league level, but just had a cup of coffee at the major league level, looking for some younger, perhaps more under the radar type prospects to be able to help supplement the system for players that maybe there could be some type of role for, but really there isn't a whole lot of a role for these players realistically over the next couple of years at the major league level. They're mostly just depth. I think that's one of the areas that the Dodgers could look out for, and especially with this outfield in this Dodger system. I think one of the ways that you can go ahead and really help this system in the outfield is trading perhaps two of the outfielders, especially perhaps at the Oklahoma City level, to really help free up some of the pipeline.
Earhart, Tibbs.
And those could Ward, definitely be those
three need to be traded.
Those could definitely be options that we could look for potential options to be traded, because then that's going to allow some of these other guys to potentially be promoted and really free up the system to be able to have promotions in the outfield, because that's something that isn't and can't happen at this point. I think those are other aspects that the Dodgers could look at, and you can use some of those pieces for a Tarek Skubal type of trade, or if you're looking to be able to replenish this farm system, be able to add some younger players to be able to help supplement some of the pieces that you're missing from the draft. I think that's something the organization continues to focus on, whether you agree with that scenario or not, and I think that's something that they potentially could be looking for, whether this during the trade deadline or during the offseason.
See, we have a comment here that Ryan Ward lowered his his trade value. I think he increased it. I mean, he was right at league average offensively, and that's with a very, very, very limited role. He wasn't, he's had defensive, at least at first base. He's had some times where he didn't look absolutely terrible. I know that the batting average was only 218, but there's not a whole lot you can expect out of a guy that's getting very inconsistent at bats, and then also trying to incorporate into the major league level at the beginning. When I say that, I don't think Ryan Ward's trade stock was ever very high. I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot you can get back. So whenever I say I don't think he hurt his draft, I think he actually increased his draft stock, because I think pretty much you went into the major league experience of Ryan Ward with him as about as close to a zero of a trade value as you could get. And I think he's at least maybe a tick or two above that zero level in terms of trade value. So I definitely don't think he hurt his trade values. I don't think there was a whole lot there to begin with. Am I being a little bit too negative?
Yeah, so he's an older prospect. Because of how long he's been in the Dodger system, he's 27, 28 years old. Yeah. That's going to limit his value in terms of trade, because you're keeping him during that time. And while it's during his peak value in terms of where he could potentially be age-wise, he hasn't had a whole lot of major league experience. Some of the things that we took note of with Ryan Ward at the MLB level: league average type hitter, 112 WRC plus against righties, so he was really solid against righties. Or really,
which most pitchers are right-handed.
Yes. And he's going to be likely seen as more of that plus side of the platoon type role. But this was one of the things that was a little bit more of encouraging, is defensively, he graded out actually pretty well defensively. And that was the biggest question mark with Ryan Ward is, there was a lot of people who were saying Ryan Ward is not a good defender at all, and he's going to have to out-hit that. Well, if Ryan Ward can at least be a league average type of defender while also being able to provide you with plus production against right-handed pitching, that could be a valuable role that other teams look at. And while it's not going to be a massive value for other team, just given his age, being able to help supplement that and getting something back in return for Ryan Ward while giving him an opportunity could be definitely worthwhile for the Dodgers to pursue.
I think you can get the next Christian Zazueta, and whenever the Dodgers traded Caleb Ferguson, at that time Zazueta had not even played an A-ball yet. So it's like you're trading a major leaguer for a guy who hadn't even played A-ball. I think that's the kind of return you could get for for a Ryan Ward, somebody who maybe is talented but has absolutely no exposure or experience whatsoever, even at the lower level of the minor leagues, but that you kind of look and you go, well, this guy's projectable type situation. Okay, so let me get into my next conversation here, and that is Dalton Rushing. Dalton Rushing is a very, very, first of all, Will Smith, man, those necks. Here's a couple things on Will Smith. That's a very, very, very sensitive area of your body. You just don't want to mess with the neck, the shoulder area. You can screw things up for a hell of a long time, especially as a catcher where you're always whip snatch, getting, the whiplash, or you have equipment on. It's just a very difficult thing. And so with an 11.5 game lead, there is absolutely, and plus Dalton Rushing, the one thing about him was how are they going to get him at bats? So with an 11.5 game lead, you have a young player that needs at bats. If there's ever been a scenario to where you didn't need to rush a guy back to the major leagues, it is Will Smith. So I don't think the Will Smith thing is anything at this point for Dodgers fans to start reading between the tea leaves into. I think this is just it's a sensitive part of the body. The Dodgers have Dalton Rushing that needs at bats. They have a big lead in the division, and so they have the ability to just kind of keep things the way that they are. Now, let me get into Dalton Rushing. Okay, embarrassing whenever he was I love Dalton. Okay, but the interaction with Shohei Ohtani, embarrassing. He said it himself. There's no doubt about it. I'm one of his biggest fans. I was embarrassed watching it. So here is going to be my statement on Dalton Rushing, and this goes all the way back for the whole kind of basket of the way that he has acted. What I would tell him if I was his dad or his former Dan McDonald at Louisville, his former college coach, or his high school coach, I think he grew up in the Memphis area, okay, whoever that may be. If I had his ear right now, what I would tell him is, Dalton, don't change a thing in terms of the reasons why you get fired up. Keep all that football mentality. That's what's always made you good. That's your separator. That's what separates you from everywhere else. Where you've got to learn to be a pro, though, young man, is your presentation. Your presentation sucks. What being a pro is, yeah, I have all these emotions, because pros have the same emotions we do, okay? They get pissed, they get happy, they get mad, they get all these things. But what being a pro is learning how to take all those emotions and putting it into a professional presentation. So the only thing, in my opinion, Dalton Rushing needs to fix, whatever tense you want to put that in, is presentation. So when he decides to melt down to where the presentation is going to look little league, bush league, and embarrassing, he needs to take his ass down the ramp. He needs to go into the locker room. He needs to throw about 3 or 4 helmets against the lockers. He needs to throw it fit long enough where nobody can see it until he's over it, until where he can come back, and whenever people in public see him, he's giving a professional presentation. So don't change anything if you're Dalton Rushing other than presentation. That's my opinion on him.
Fair enough. He has been a really solid offensive contributor for this Los Angeles Dodgers team. And the reason why the Dodgers haven't really dropped a beat for the most part, even during the injury of Will Smith, is because Dalton Rushing has been able to step up and take primary catching role for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Casey said it, the incident with Shohei Ohtani was embarrassing and can't happen and won't happen going forward.
Like, dude, man, I can't defend you on that. Come on, man.
Yeah, he will change. He will learn. He will grow and be better. One of the things that had come up during that time period that I don't want people to draw as a conclusion from Dalton Rushing, because I know this not to be true, is the opinion that Dalton Rushing did that because he doesn't care about his teammates is completely and 100% inaccurate.
It's opposite.
It is a complete misreading of the situation. Dalton Rushing cares so much about his team, so much about the success and the standard that he holds himself to, that oftentimes I think he is more than incredibly hard on himself, more than incredibly frustrated during a lot of these times, and being able to sort out with those frustrations when you're in a prime time center role with all these different stars. When you had a season last year where you struck out 36% of the time, you're trying to be able to establish some type of role at the major league level. All of the media now sees you as the Dodgers' go-to guy to go ahead and pick on. I think a lot of those things caught up to Dalton Rushing during that moment. I am not worried about him going forward because I know how fired up and how much he actually cares about his teammates, how much he actually cares about performing well in the game of baseball. He's incredibly highly competitive. This goes back to when I saw him in Great Lakes. He really cared about helping out with that team and winning those games. And it led to the point where, man, there was times where I remember with that Great Lakes team, I think it's the team that I saw most players get ejected during the entire season that year. It's because that team was highly competitive. They very much cared about going out there and win, and they were going to do whatever it took to win. I think being able to take that attitude, be able to mature, become a little bit more professional, find different aspects where you can be able to control that, and surrounding himself with the veteran presence that they have. The Dodgers have so many leaders. They have so many veterans that can help him through this. I think it's going to be a very good thing. And I think we are, as Dodgers fans, going to grow to love having Dalton Rushing on our team because really, I don't want to see Dalton Rushing on another team because Dalton Rushing is that good and that competitive where I don't want to face Dalton Rushing. I want him on my team.
Yeah, no doubt. And everything you said there is absolutely correct. And I do think, hey, there's a little bit of back and forth where but Dalton's the rookie there. Okay, I don't know if he's still considered a rookie. You're talking about Shohei Ohtani. There are different in the professional ball now. At my level, high school, even a lot of times in college, everybody's the same. That's how you have to coach them. In pro ball, it's different. So I would just say that hey, all of that is true. You're competitive. It's this, you're that. Maybe Shohei didn't handle it. I don't care. Fix it. Your presentation sucks. Fix it. That would literally be the exact thing that I would tell Dalton Rushing, and I think that would be the best advice. And honestly, I know Dave is very sweet and he's very kind. But I think in Dave's way, in the Dodgers' own way, they're very sweet and very kind. I think that's what they told him was, hey, we love you. We want to go to bat for you. Fix it. We got to fix this presentation. We can't be showing up Shohei Ohtani or whatever the situation may be. So that would be my statement there. Hey, I've got about 2 minutes left. I got a guy on my O State Daily site, one of the broadcasters for OSU, coming on talking about the defense tonight on my O State site here at 6:00 my time, which is 4:00 Pacific, 7:00 your time. So I got about 3 or 4 minutes here left, Austin. It has been absolutely awesome to see your face. If you can't tell with the tone of my voice, I'm so excited to be back, so excited to be with you, so excited to be with the Dodgers Dogs tonight. Man, what a great crowd we had. Austin, it's been so much fun for me. Thank you for hanging in with me and being loyal to Dodgers Daily, Austin. You can't tell you how much I appreciate you. So final thoughts here.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun being able to talk with you again, Casey. You are the face of Dodgers Daily. You are the voice of Dodgers Daily. I'm grateful enough to be able to help contribute as much as I have been able to for the site, and we're looking forward to continue to be able to do this. Dodgers face a lot of different questions over the next couple of weeks when it comes down to the trade deadline. Their roster, I think, overall is really well put together to the point where you could very well make an argument, man, should the Dodgers kind of be sellers a little bit? I have a case where,
good point.
Okay, if you're talking about different outfielders that could be traded, I think there is a case where the Dodgers could potentially, not saying that they will, but could potentially look to be able to trade somebody even like an Alex Call. We won't get into that conversation this week. We might be a future conversation that Casey and I have where I make the argument for that. Talked a little bit about the show.
I want to hear that one. We don't have time for that one tonight. I want to hear that one.
Yes, I want to give time to be able to have that full
I wish you luck on that. That's going to be a hard one convincing me on.
Yes. And it is not an expectation, but an option that the Dodgers could go ahead and pursue. And it depends on the confidence level that you have in somebody like an Zach Earhart. We'll get into that conversation in a little bit. Lots of different trade deadline conversations we're going to have going forward because August 3rd is coming up. The Dodgers are looking to be able to go ahead and three-peat. And if there's any sort of move that the Dodgers want to make, got less than 3 weeks to go ahead and make them and to fortify this roster to try to go out and win 3 straight World Series championships, which would be something absolutely historic for this franchise to do. I'm looking forward to it. Trade deadline season, super fun. Casey, always great to be able to talk to you.
Thanks, Austin.
Thanks, Case.
All you wonderful Dodgers dogs, you are the absolute best. And as always, never forget, it's a great day to be a Dodger.